make a lion's mane fried rice. So I have just sort of random stuff around the fridge and some leftover rice and a couple of veggies and a few other mushrooms, and figured I'd just throw it all together into a stir fry and show you guys what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go to the board and show you what we have in front of us. So we've got things sort of organized a little bit by mise en place here. And mise en place means everything in its place. And this is a really important practice when you cook in general, but especially when you're cooking in a wok or in high heat applications. So what I've got here is a couple of mushrooms that I've washed. So I've got some black trumpets, some lion's mane, and some hedgehog mushrooms. And big shout out and thanks to Far West Fungi for all these great mushrooms. I got them at the farmer's market today. I have got some allium, so I've got some garlic and some ginger chopped up here. I've got some green onions from the garden. I've got some protein, just some leftover crappy chicken. I've got this sort of like fake lobster stuff. It's basically just a fish hot dog, but I really like sort of supplementing mushrooms with a little bit of meat. I've some eggs for some extra protein, and I've got some good greens that I sauteed down here before we get started. So this is just some Napa cabbage and some bok choy. And I've just got some, leftover white rice that I cooked up a couple nights ago, and I'm just trying to use it up. And honestly, for fried rice, leftover rice is king. You don't actually want fresh rice. You want sort of stale, dry rice, because that will fry up the best. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to mince these mushrooms up for a second. And I, big rustic pieces is fine. Sort of washed as much of the dirt off them as I could get. Hedgehogs in particular have great texture, and so I want to leave some like larger pieces to really kind of enjoy and as part of this fried rice. Run across a little nugget of hedgehog and know that you're eating a hedgehog. I don't like to process my mushrooms too much because then you don't know what you're eating. And I certainly like some mushrooms because they sort of seamlessly integrate with meat and you can't even tell the difference. But certainly with like black trumpets and hedgehogs, I like keeping some of that texture so that what you're getting a bite of. And I think in this dish, what I like to do with the lion's mane is often just kind of break it apart by hand and to kind of like you feel with like the little lobes and it's almost like, pulling meat apart by the muscle kind of thing. Similar kind of thing here with the lion's mane. But I think this texture of the lion's mane will go well with that little sort of like fake lobster stuff that I've got. The lion's mane has a nice sort of seafoody type texture. So I'm thinking, different types of mushrooms, it's different nutritional profiles and different types of fiber and stuff, but it's also, slightly different flavors, slightly different textures, really make like a mixture of all these different things into a nice fried rice dish, where every bite will sort of be a multitude of flavors and textures. And, I'm trying to pack in some good healthy stuff here. I'm using a little bit of crappy chicken and a little bit of, processed fish hot dog stuff, but I'm using a lot of fresh mushrooms and a lot of veggies here. And it's good because I'm getting hungry. I can actually feel my stomach growling. So I've got to get cooking. This stuff is, I'll do this off camera, but it's a mushroom account. So I'm trying to show you guys, how I'm processing my mushrooms here so you can see them. Do I use a salad spinner to clean black trumpets? I didn't, but that's a good idea. Black trumpets, definitely you want to wash them very thoroughly. They're full of dirt. And the other day I made a black trumpet dish where I thought I'd washed my trumpets very thoroughly, and then I got a bite with quite a bit of dirt in it. So clearly I didn't do the best job. But I like the idea of, Craterellus in general, like these black trumpets, don't soak up a whole lot of liquid. So I have no problem like immersing them fully in water, really mashing them around, getting them nice and clean. And I think a salad spinner sounds like a great way to get them dry, I don't worry too much about trying to cook wet mushrooms because I put my mushrooms always into a dry pan. And that's what you'll see me do here is I'm going to dry saute these. So I'll put them into a hot, dry pan and just let the moisture cook out for a couple of minutes. So actually, as I talk about that, I'm going to turn my pan on here. Let it start getting hot. And so I put them in a hot, dry pan with no oil. And this is important because if you put wet mushrooms in, especially these trumpets and these hedgies are pretty wet, if you have oil in there, the water will never really fully cook out. It just kind of leaves the mushrooms like wet and soggy and insipid. It's my favorite word to describe mushrooms that don't get kind of crispy, golden, and delicious is insipid. It's just like a wet, soggy mushroom. It's uninspiring. It doesn't get that nice umami, that Maillard reactions that generate the umami and the depth of flavor in this kind of thing. So I'm playing with my new OpenL knife here. OpenL sent me a really nice kitchen knife. I use their mushroom knife quite a bit when I'm foraging, but they make some pretty nice blades. So thanks, OpenL. Okay. So we've got our mise en place all set. I still have to chop these green onions. Eggs are good to go. When you cook eggs, I like to salt them ahead of time. You can actually see they've gotten a little darker yellow, and that's what happens when you salt your eggs ahead of time. They'll retain more moisture when you go to cook them. So I'm just trying to make sure I have all my components in place before I start cooking, because once you start cooking a stir fry, things happen pretty quickly. So let's go over to our pan here, and I'm going to point you guys at my pan, and you will watch the mushrooms cook. So over we go. Okay. So I'm not super looking at the chat here while I cook, because I'm kind of focused on cooking, but I will look occasionally, especially here while it's pointed at the pan. I don't know if there's any undergrad degrees that specialize in mycology. I get asked that a lot. My advice is always just go get a general biology degree and then figure out how it applies to mycology. There's not that many specialized degrees in mycology around the country. So you'll be better off just trying to get into a good school and get a good biology degree and then learn about mushrooms. I mean, that's what I did. I don't have an educational background in mushrooms. I just read about them and learn about them and ask lots of questions of people who know more than me. And I think that's kind of the best way to learn about mycology. And if anyone's watched pretty much any of my live chats or live broadcasts, I talk frequently about the fact that most people in the mushroom community don't have an official background in mycology. You know, the academic mycologists that exist are they're not people who got degrees in mycology, because there's not programs that do degrees in mycology. So, Oh, hello from Singapore. Yeah, I feel like Singapore would appreciate this dish. This is, fried rice. Getting after it. So I'm just cutting my sort of fish hot dog stuff over here. It's like a fake lobster, but it's really just, it's basically imitation crab meat. It's the same kind of stuff where they take pollock and they process it with like potato starch and different umami ingredients. And I like this stuff. It's a fairly sustainable form of seafood. Tastes great. It's really cheap, easy to get. So, boom. So I'm going to do the mushrooms, and I'm going to fry off the eggs, and then I'll probably figure out how to integrate the proteins and some other stuff here, and then go in with the garlic and the ginger, stir fry that for just a hot sec, and dump everything else in on top of it, and just kind of assemble the whole dish. Get the rice in there, and then once you have the rice in there, you need a little bit of liquid to kind of rehydrate the rice and bring it back to life. And so I'll use a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of Shaoxing cooking wine. I do have a little sake on the side over here. Right now I'm just trying to torch these mushrooms. So I'm going high heat on these mushrooms. I put a tiny bit of salt in, but that's about it. There's no oil in this pan. Yeah, sustainable seafood. I don't think people have any idea how badly we've messed with the oceans, and our oceans are in rough shape. Yeah, quite honestly, get used to eating imitation crab now, because by the time that, I don't know how old you guys are. I'm in my 30s, but I'm pretty sure by the time I'm in my 50s, real seafood will basically be not an option anymore. The days of all-you-can-eat sushi are limited. And or if you're eating all-you-can-eat sushi, you're definitely not eating the fish you think you're eating. They do all sorts of sketchy things, like take fish and dye it different colors, and it's not a bad thing to eat imitation seafood. Go with the sustainable option. Get used to eating things that are more sustainable. We really, really, really need to. And I think mushrooms for me are one of the most sustainable things we can eat. They're also one of the most delicious things. So. I've heard that some people have gotten sick from eating raw shiitake, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much you really need to cook your mushrooms. Shiitake in particular can be pretty tough, and so if you don't cook them well, I would assume they'd be not great to eat raw. And I've heard people feel unwell after eating shiitake that's not cooked fully. So, you know, that is a reasonable explanation if you didn't feel good after eating so much shiitake. Yeah, fish is so good. I love fish, but it's, you know, you can't necessarily eat real fish every day unless you like live by the ocean and catch it yourself. And you know, there are ways to do sustainable fisheries, but the problem is like the international fish market is not sustainable, and a lot of stuff that gets sold to sushi places is not sustainable. You know, the Monterey Bay Aquarium has a great guide to sustainable seafood, and it changes region by region and season by season as to what's sustainable. So, fungi tacos. You know, I make fungi tacos pretty regularly. I cook a lot of hongos, and I have a little tortilleria nearby that that makes really amazing fresh tortillas. And so, like, you know, what I like doing is I'll go buy like the cheap al pastor, again, like cheap sustainable meat, and I'll mix it about 50-50 with some mushrooms. But like the seasoning from the al pastor infuses the mushrooms. I add some extra onions. I add some green onions. So I'm getting more vegetable matter than just having al pastor, and that works out really, really well. It tastes really, really good. Okay, so I'm gonna point you guys back at the board here since I'm pretty much done with cooking those mushrooms. So quickly, I've just got a bowl where I'm gonna dump some of the cooked components. So mushrooms go down. I'm gonna scramble our eggs real quick. Do I want to do the eggs? No, I'm not gonna do the eggs. I'm gonna put a little bit of heat and color on my protein, my alternative protein here. So there's some cheap shitty chicken, and here's my little sustainable bits of fish hot dog. So I'm gonna put you guys back on the pan. I'm just gonna stir fry this for like 30 seconds, just a little heated up, get a tiny bit of color on it. I think lion's mane is a delicious edible mushroom. I was just on TikTok earlier, you know, with a lot of people asking me questions about lion's mane. And I think there's a lot of health claims made about lion's mane that are not substantiated by the science. So be very wary of buying lion's mane products. I think that people are overselling the potential benefit of lion's mane. There's been some very cursory work showing that maybe it has the ability to, you know, stimulate neurogenesis, but like that hasn't been proven in humans, and like the concentration effect and the localization effect is like completely not understood. So is it worth spending $50 on like a little thing of lion's mane extract? No, probably not. Is it worth spending like $10 on like a couple pounds of edible lion's mane to cook for dinner? Yeah, totally. I always tell people that, you know, I feel strongly that mushrooms are going to be the best health benefit you get from mushrooms is going to be from eating it. So instead of trying to make an extract or take pills or anything, just buy some mushrooms to eat. You know, you get dinner. It's delicious. They're fun to cook with. They're delicious and just nutritious and good for you. And sorry if I'm repeating myself. I don't know. I have like trauma from people always asking me like, what are the health effects of lion's mane? And I'm always like, don't buy into it. Don't buy into the hype. Just eat lots of mushrooms. But I bet that the health effects from lion's mane are probably just the same health effects you get from eating almost any other mushroom. You know, especially because a lot of the mushroom products out there aren't even made with fruiting bodies. They're made with mycelium, which is going to be mostly rice or just like hay or something. You know, I've heard about a lot of analyses that have been done on some of the mushroom products that are out there, and it's very rarely is it actually have that much mushroom in it. It's just, you know, rice powder. So just beware what you're buying. I don't have any recommendations about companies that are any better than anyone else. I don't take mushroom products myself. So, yeah, they were just little bits of chicken fingers from a grocery store nearby. If you want to make this vegan, you could easily leave out the chicken fingers or the fake lobster stuff, and just use mushrooms or use some tofu or something like that. I made a fried rice like a week or two ago that I just used tofu. I just don't have any tofu in the fridge, so. Okay, so scrambled eggs. You want nice texture in scrambled eggs. You really got to work them quick and fast. This is, don't want to like make an amamuri rice or whatever. I just fold that up into a little omelet, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm just making some scrambled egg. So real quick, we're all done up. I dump this out of the pan. I'll let the heat finish cooking it through. I definitely like my eggs just on the edge of being cooked. They are more delicious like that. More moisture, more everything. Tastes great. Okay, boom. So we got our pan cleaned out, and now we're ready to do some real cooking. So in we go. Hit this with some more oil. Yes, dehydrated mushrooms are definitely legit. It does depend on what kind you get. Some mushrooms, dried mushrooms, taste much better than others. Like porcini, shiitake have a really strong flavor when they're dried. Yeah, I love a moist egg as well. That's why I salt them ahead of time. So I went in with my garlic and my ginger, just a really quick fry. If you overcook ginger, it'll get bitter. I don't want that. I'm going to hit this, because I've got oil down here, I want to really flavor that oil, so I'm going to hit it with all my nice green onion components there. Oops, sorry about that. A tiny bit more oil too, because I got a lot of rice coming in. I'll hit this with a little more green onion to finish as well, and maybe a little sesame oil. But let's get that all cooked in. Okay, I'm going to dump in my rice. I made rice twice last week, so I'm just going to use. Yeah, I think that rice is still fine. It's going to get cooked. So, oop. Okay, so we'll just work on breaking this up a little bit. Get a little heat on that rice, get a little moisture on that rice. So nothing I'm doing here is fancy or complicated. I'm just, heating up some leftover rice with whatever was in the fridge. Anyone could do this anytime. I really like fried rice, but I feel like some people get way too fancy with it, or you go to a restaurant and they're charging you a bunch of money for fried rice, and I'm like, bro, fried rice is the easiest thing in the world to make, and I understand that maybe you put some crab in it or something like that, but I put way more stuff in my fried rice than what I ever see in restaurants. They put at most they put carrots and peas in it, and I'm like, nah, man, I'm putting 3 kinds of mushrooms, I'm putting eggs and fake lobster and chicken and Napa cabbage and bok choy, and I like to eat food that has a lot of different nutritional components. I feel best like that, and I think it really helps you to have a diverse diet with a lot of different colors and textures and flavors. The one thing I'm missing at home is I will never get what they call the breath of the wok, because my pan's just not hot enough. I mean, I'm using a non-stick wok here, so it will never get hot enough, and I don't want it necessarily to get hot enough. So okay, so here's all my junk. So I got my Napa cabbage, I got my bok choy, I got my eggs, I got my chicken, and I'm going to carefully try to turn this whole thing around. Nice gooey eggs. And when I make fried rice, sometimes I'll crack the egg directly in, but then it kind of scrambles up with the rice itself, so you don't get the nice fluffy pieces of rice, or of egg amongst the rice. So I like to sometimes stir fry my eggs separately, so you get that distinct bite of egg and egg texture as well. Okay, so we're going to turn the heat up a little bit here, and I'm also going to start adding a little bit of liquid. So I've got a bit of Shaoxin cooking wine, and I'm just going to hit that just a little bit over the top. So it's got a little salt, a little alcohol, and it's just going to help add some liquid. I have some sort of medium shoyu, this stuff. So I'm just do one nice glug of that. And I'm going to hit it with just a tiny bit of dark soy as well. So this is the really dark stuff. Okay. And then I'm also going to come in with a little bit of white pepper and some oyster sauce. Again, if I had a slightly bigger pan, this would be easier to really get the stuff working and moving. But I'll just try to stir it around as well as I can. This is where if I had a real wok, it'd be no problem. I would just slam this back and forth and get that breath of the wok here. Instead, I just want to make sure I get this all turned up so that oops, crap, I'm already losing stuff. Okay. Chef snack. Yum. Lion's mane's in here. It's in here with the hedgehogs and black trumpets and all the other stuff. Okay, I'm gonna come around and give this a little bit of oyster sauce. Hit this too with some white pepper. White pepper's very common in Asian cooking, and it's part of sort of that distinctive flavor you get. I'm gonna have to unhook myself, so go to the fridge. Yeah, I'll finish with the sesame oil. I don't like putting sesame oil on while I'm cooking because it kind of loses its flavor with heat. So again, you could make this vegetarian or vegan by not adding oyster sauce, but like oyster sauce is delicious. So I'm going to put a good amount on. It also has sugar in it, which is another important part when you cook Asian food. You really need to balance your sweet, salty, bitter, umami, all the flavors. Just a tiny sprinkle of MSG too, because I like things when they taste good. So I'm gonna add my MSG. Yeah, I use fish sauce constantly. I just don't use fish sauce in fried rice. I generally use that more for like Southeast Asian, Vietnamese, Thai type style things. This is much more in the Chinese tradition of cooking right now to use oyster sauce and Shaoxin cooking wine and stuff like that, and white pepper. I grew up with a Chinese babysitter. Well, I guess she was Taiwanese, which is an important distinction these days. Taiwanese babysitter. And so I got a lot of exposure to Asian food as a kid. And it just feels like home to me. It feels like comfort food. I love going to Chinatown and just being like, I don't know what anything's called, but I want to eat everything because I know it all and I'm very familiar with it. And I've worked some to learn how to cook different Asian dishes that I grew up eating and just had no idea, how to make them until I figured it out. None of it's that hard. It's just a matter of figuring out what you got around and cooking with it. So. Okay, so we're getting pretty close here. To finish this off, I'll probably do a little bit of sesame oil. On the side, I'll probably add a little sriracha. My partner hasn't wanted to eat spicy stuff recently, so I'm trying to make things mild for her. And I will lay the sriracha on for myself. Try this out. Oh yeah. Yummy. Oh, that's great. Yeah, lots of umami, lots of good stuff. I had this with just a little bit more white pepper and come over the top, some sesame oil. I'm adding the sesame oil at the very end just because the heat kind of messes with the flavor. So, sorry about that. Whacking you guys all around on your stand. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this around. Oh, that sesame oil is like immediately activated by the heat. It smells great, nice and toasted. Lots and lots of veggies and mushrooms and meat and rice and all the good things. Good one-pot meal. And I'm cleaning up the fridge. So all these are good things. All right, I'm going to turn the heat off. Just let this coast. You know, again, this is not the world's perfect fried rice, but it's perfect for me. That's all I really need. Yeah, I mean, these spoons are life. I love these things. I probably have more of these than regular spoons. Which mushroom in this dish is my favorite? I don't know, it's tough. It's got hedgehogs and black trumpets and lion's mane, which are all like 3 of my favorite edible mushrooms. So I really don't know if I could pick a favorite. The trumpets might be my favorite, but like I can eat lion's mane all year long. So it just depends. But I'm gonna pick you guys up. There's my fried rice dish. Lots of good stuff there. Yeah. So let's turn this around. Hi guys, it's Gordon. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thanks for paying attention while I cook. I appreciate your attention and the feedback you guys give me, and just for following. Oh, hey Dan, how you doing, man? If you want to learn more from me, you can check out my website, fascinatedbyfungi.com. I've got cool t-shirts, like the Lobster Chef t-shirt. I've got some mugs. I've got all sorts of things on there. I've also got a FAQ section where you can answer a lot of the common questions you guys have for me about, like, how do you get into foraging? How did you learn about mushrooms? What's poisonous? What's toxic? That kind of stuff. So please check out my website, fascinatedbyfungi.com. I also have a YouTube, and I post a lot of stuff on YouTube, so please check out my YouTube. I'm trying to grow a following there, and it's been going kind of slowly, so I appreciate you guys for hanging out, giving feedback. You know, if you want to get recipes from me, I have a Patreon where you can support me as well. I'm trying to figure out how to, like, do mushrooms professionally, but there's not a lot of money in it if you don't sell out, and I'm trying to not sell out. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do that exactly, because no one will pay me to be me, not yet at least, and I have to figure out how to pay the bills. So anyhow, if you want to support my Patreon, that'd be great. If you want to get a t-shirt, that would also be great. If you guys just want to share my videos with your friends, that would be wonderful. But thank you so much. I'm going to eat some fried rice. So bye. Have a good night.